So last video in the comment section down below, you voted who you wanted to see, and the person with the most votes was Tracer this week. So here we go. If you want to see any certain character for the next video, please make sure to tell me in the comment section down below, and I'll try to do them as quickly as possible. And whoever gets the most votes. Anyway, today we're watching Effects Tracer, and yeah, I really do like this guy's Tracer. He is very offensive. He goes in for a lot of kills, a lot of damage, maybe dies a little bit too much in this video in particular, but yeah, I just really like how much risk he takes, and mainly how much of a carry this guy really can be. Anyways, as far as the actual gameplay itself, he does actually use a circle crosshair, and it's a little weird purple one. Very small, so, you could try to use that for yourself. Personally, I like a green crosshair, but a circle is pretty good as Tracer because, of course, you can generally aim quite well with the spread, and it is a very small circle. As well with that, on high ground on Hanamura, to match the enemy's high ground early on, we saw him actually, going on high ground, using his flashes, and get right next to the enemy DPS and supports where they have no tanks. Often you can do this, you can get above where the enemy tanks are with your flashes if the map geometry works like that, and it's probably a good idea to do. It makes it that you can't die away too much, mainly makes it you can take a lot of 1v1s with other DPS, and that's where you really shine, because you can definitely take out a ton of other DPS 1v1. Right here we saw something that I actually like a lot, which is that we actually use Pulse Bomb on a big target. We don't always want to do this. Of course, if you can't happen to Pulse Bomb Mercy or an Ana or something like that, you do want to do that. However, if you feel like Pulse Bomb isn't hitting anyone, or you feel like you just want a more consistent Pulse Bomb, go for it on one of the tanks, especially one of the anchor tanks that's stuck. If you can take those guys out, you can often just freely get to the back line and pop them off. That's something that I don't really often see way too many people doing. They often go for the more risky Pulse Bomb on the moving Mercy, and while that can work and that can have huge results for you, it can also sometimes lead to some bad stuff. As well with this though, if you can happen to get a Pulse Bomb on like an Orisa, for example, the Mercy might have to shift up to try to save her, and then from there, when the Mercy comes up while she's not invincible, from the res, you can actually probably go and kill the Mercy, and that can kind of work. Right here we see something, which is that, whenever you see a barrier in front of you and there's nothing else you can do because most of your team's dying, or, you're just trying to push a point slowly, just shoot the barrier. I see a lot of people that just wait. They don't shoot the barrier. They just do nothing. But yeah, just go for it. Right here we see a super long 1v2. And generally, you shouldn't be able to win these way too much, but it is a good idea to try to take these as much as you can. In the actual game, maybe it's not the best, but if you can bother to get a lot of experience here, that's where it's really worth it. I feel like just gaining experience as DPS is so important. And yeah, taking 1v1s, 1v2s, while maybe not the most practical thing, if you can pull it off like we see right here a lot with this guy, yeah, it's a thing that you might be able to go for. As far as taking the 1v1s, we often see that he actually goes for neck shots and, middle high body shots instead of directly headshots. He's not really aiming at the top of their head. The reason for this is because, of course, you can't really hit the top of their head, otherwise half your bullets are going to fly all over the place. So yeah, do go more for their neck, try to take them out like that. Of course, versus a Mercy that's flying in the air, we really just see like lower to middle body shots because you can't really shoot the head when they're above you that easily. And it's much better to just hit where the hitbox is better and where the hitbox is bigger. As well, I guess, when you're trying to take 1v1s and really just when you're fighting in general, try to use health packs instead of wasting your E if possible to heal up. Wasting your E is a very risky move, as we saw earlier, and we really went for a lot of health packs, but if you waste your E, for the next 12 seconds, you don't really have your get out of jail free card. While you can, I guess, teleport around and get out like that, generally it's not as safe. Right now, we're just watching this right now, see what's going on, looking at win rates, I guess. And, you can do that if you want to. But yeah, generally, I would say that's probably a good thing to do because you don't want to kill yourself like that. As far as other things in 1v1s, I guess we're really just stuck on this 1v1 topic because that's something Tracer can do a lot because she is such a good flanker. You can actually wait around corners and try to one-shot headshot people, or I guess one-click people in the head or in the neck or whatever you want to call it. And don't be afraid to wait to engage. I know as Tracer, you're thinking she's a DPS that's offensive, that's supposed to get in there all the time, but you should learn to wait and you should learn patience. We've seen this a few times with this guy. If you know that the whole enemy team is around the corner, maybe it's a better idea to wait for one of them to check up the stairs where you can then one-shot them in the head, or I guess, again, one-clip them in the head. It's a good thing to do. And as well, I would say try to get, I think, headphones as this character so you can hear a lot better. Generally, as characters that are so close up, you want to hear when people are walking around you. As someone like Reinhardt, it doesn't matter as much, but especially with Tracer, yeah. Next, I guess when we're talking about 1v1 and Genji, before this new round starts, try to stand really close up to him, almost right next up to him, a little bit further away than that though, because generally his mid-range is slightly better than yours. His mid-range can slightly get more headshots, can get more luck shots, can take you out, while your closer range does a little bit more damage per second, and you can one-shot him faster than he can one-shot you, generally. And as well, your E can effectively almost double your HP, so you have a bit more than him. You know, it's kind of awkward, but generally you want to stay a little bit closer while he wants to stay a little bit further. So there is that. And of course, do remember that you can poke him a little bit easier than he can poke you. So I guess when you're trying to get some poke damage, stay a bit further away, but when you want to actually go for the kill, do get closer up. Now, right there, of course, we unfortunately got killed again, and we are going very hand this game. That is a huge amount of risk versus, I guess, another huge amount of reward. Luckily, our team is holding up pretty well, and I will say that if you can possibly do this, try to get more consistent teams on your, or I guess more consistent picks on your team, like Soldier or Reinhardt, to counter the fact that you are a bit less of a consistent character on defense. On offense, you are very consistent. You can get picks, and if you die, it's not way too bad. But on defense, definitely, you might want a bit of consistency. Now, as far as, you know, we saw at the very beginning of this round, we actually saw our Tracer player, Effect, immediately jumping on the enemies and just going for headshots and going for body shots right after they came out of spawn. If you're on a map like this where you can do that and then just E back, there's no reason to really not go for that. So that's a weird little trick that you can kind of go for, kind of like with Torb, you know, putting down your turret at the beginning. You can do that as Tracer, and it's essentially the same thing, which is kind of nice. Now, as far as defense in general, I'm going to tell you guys, don't take, you know, way too many risky 1v1 fights. Right now we see that everybody's focusing in front of us on our team, so it's not that risky, but in a lot of cases, when you see like a 1v1 next to the enemy's spawn, it's a lot better for the enemy to take that than for you. If the enemy dies on offense, it's not way too bad. They have to wait 10 or 15 seconds and then they can come back. However, if you die on defense, that's really bad because you have to wait to, you know, respawn, and then you have to walk all the way back, and during that whole time, let's say you killed each other, the offense person will get back a lot quicker than the defense person. So don't take really hazardous stuff like that, and if you see, for example, a Hanzo on the enemy team, just wait to take him out with the tank and kind of stay next to your tanks. Right here, we're seeing a team fight go on. We're doing a lot of damage. We're trying to kill the Mercy. Unfortunately, it's taking us a little bit of time, but we do have our priority straight, that being targeting the Mercy first if possible. That's so important this meta. Mercy is so strong in this meta, and Tracer can really kill her. We also got back to the backline to kill the Widow. That was pretty cool, but definitely Tracer is a good pick to take out Mercy. Of course, she doesn't have the furthest range, but you can get right up next to her and one-clip her pretty easily. Especially if she's ulting, you might not be able to kill her as much, but you will be able to spook her away and make so that she can't get reses without having the risk of death. So both those are pretty nice for you, and yeah. Right there, we saw something that was also pretty cool. Unfortunately, we got picked, which is awkward. But what we did see was that, for the most part, usually when you actually, you know, kill the enemy team and go 2 for 2 or something, you can usually get kind of to the enemy's backline for a few seconds, pick off a support, and then go away. And even if you don't kill the support, you're wasting a lot of their time. And a lot of the time, your team can actually outdamage the enemies if your team has 2 supports and theirs doesn't. So if you can't try to waste their time, as we just saw, I guess you can try to do that as well if you want to. Right here we see a nice ult just going again for one of the tanks. One thing that you can do with your ult if you don't want to shoot it at a tank, or if you don't want to shoot it at, you know, whatever, a little trick you can do is, I guess, shoot it at people that are trying to chase you and trying to kill you that way. You can actually stop most people trying to chase you. Right there, we might have wanted to use our E a bit earlier. Really whatever. But yeah, you can happen to do that, and if people try to chase you, they're going to die. Maybe a bit wasteful, but honestly, if it saves your life, especially on defense, I feel like that can be worth it. Now, other stuff we've been seeing, don't be afraid to shoot the enemy tanks. We're seeing this a lot. We're going after the enemy tanks. We're trying to kill them. And generally, you can actually kill tanks a lot faster than most of the more consistent DPS. You might not kill as fast as Reaper, but you can get kind of close. Now, sorry this is going quick, but I have a ton of tips. And let me finish off with these last few ones. One of them, if you can't finish off a Mercy with one clip, just use a melee, reload, and rinse and repeat. And usually, you can finish her off a little bit easier. As well, you can play a little bit more safe on defense by flanking the enemy team instead of going right behind them for picks. But you can really try either. Those are the 2 main ways that I see people doing this, and both work pretty well. And finally, I'm going to say Tracer on defense is pretty risky. You might die a little bit. You're in a very risky position, and yeah, your chance of death is high, but the reward is still very good on defense. And if you can happen to learn the character, deal a lot of damage as the character, and overall not die as much, you can do a lot for your team. And especially if you're not that great as her, just play next to your tanks and try to protect them and try to protect your supports, and she can play kind of like a defensive Reaper. Maybe not do quite as well, but still do pretty well. Anyway, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. That's all I'm going to say about this player effect. I really do like how this tracer works. And again, if you have any other character you want me to talk about in the future, please do leave that down in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank Gilded.gg for sponsoring this video and mainly helping me a lot through the adpocalypse. So, Gilded itself is a website focused on finding, founding, and expanding your gaming team with relative ease. You can schedule events, recruit new members, build team comps, and find teams to scrim with and to scrim against. Best of all to you guys, it's free. You can get started yourself with the link in the description below, and if you sign up by November 10th, you'll be entered into a chance to win a $50 Blizzard gift card. So maybe I'll see you there.